This is the installation video for the 7-port motor monitor door alarm. So this is the first step for the installation of the 7-port door alarm. And this first step is about laying out all the equipment that you have received on the front seat of your vehicle to confirm correct operation of what you have procured. So first thing is install the power cable into the motor monitor device, turn on your ignition, and you'll see that there are no lights on because each and every port has been disabled. And so what we're going to do is we're in this installation are wanting to alarm for 3 different doors, 3 different sensors, and so that means that we'll be enabling ports 1, 2 and 3, and you'll see that when I turn those on, the lights here will go on and they will also alarm because there are no sensors installed, no cables installed. So we'll do that. You can see the 3 are enabled and the 3 are alarmed. So I'll turn that off for now. Now for this installation, the 7-port door alarm is supplied with the expansion cable, and this is a single cable which we install into the single port here on the door alarm, and it provides 7 extender ports labelled 1 to 7 via this 5-metre cable. And so for our installation here, we'll install the first door sensor onto port number 1, which is labelled number 1, and we connect that, making sure that the keys of the connectors are aligned and will connect correctly. Now what we'd like to do is to encourage you to put the sensor together with the magnet to simulate that the door is closed, and for fail-safe operation to function correctly, you have to install this loop back cable at the end of each sensor. Similarly, for port number 2, find the port number 2 cable on the extender, install that, and again the loop back plug for the fail-safe operation, which detects if the cable is cut, so that's alarm on fail. Again, put the magnet there roughly in place and do the similar thing for your third sensor, looking for port number 3, or you can pick whichever port you want as long as you enable it on your door alarm. So again now, these 3 are installed. So we'll check the first one, we'll enable port number 1, and you can see that port number 1 is enabled but no longer alarming. You can remove the magnet and get a bit of a feel for how far or what distance it works over. And when it does that, you can adjust the volume to demonstrate that it is functioning correctly. Now, the thing to note is the distance over which this operates on this aluminium backed location will be different if you are installing into a steel canopy. A steel canopy or a ferrous canopy, that distance will be less, and so we'd encourage you to get a bit of a feel for that on your actual installation before you actually put those sensors in place. Similarly, for port number 2, we can enable it. You can see it's enabled and there is no alarm. And then port number 3, we can also enable that, and we can see that it's alarming now. And why is that? Well, it's alarming because we forgot to put that loop back cable on, and so the door alarm is detecting that as a cut cable. That fail-safe operation is functioning. So once you've completed that, you can now move on to the next part of the installation. We now come to the next step for the installation of the 7-port motor monitor door alarm. Now, in this case here, we want to install 3 different sensors for 3 doors. This one here, that one there, and that one there. And the reason that we've procured or selected the 7-port door alarm is because we want to separately indicate for each of those 3 doors. Now, the 7-port door alarm, for simplification, is supplied with this 7-port expander. This end here plugs in to the door alarm here, and the other end provides 7 separate ports into which you can connect 7 sensors that can be individually indicated on your door alarm. So this sensor here, what we'll do is we'll run this cable, first of all just checking the lengths are correct, check that it goes the sufficient length in your 5-metre cable to reach the front of your cab, lay that out there, and then select a suitable spot that you think you'll probably install it, just roughly lay that down inside your cab, and then check the lengths from each sensor. This sensor here will plug into port number 1, like this, and then sensor number 2 will plug into number 2 and 3 into number 3. So what we want to do is just lay these cables out roughly, confirm that those lengths are correct and that what you have ordered is suitable for your installation. You're now ready to move on to the next step. We now come to the next step where we install the sensors and the cables. The first sensor can be installed inside the vehicle, where you should put a mark on the vehicle where it's going to go. We then suggest closing the door and putting a corresponding mark on the inside of the door for where you're going to fix the magnet. When you install the sensor, you can have the armoured cable going up, which ensures the cable is well out of the way of any potential damage from sliding equipment, or if you're confident enough with the mat that's in your toolbox, you can have it going down, tucked in behind and running along the mat. Install the sensor initially with the VHB tape that we supply, and then for a longer term installation we suggest using the stainless steel screws and self-locking nuts. Some people also elect to mount their sensor using silicone for a more durable installation. The choice is yours. Once you've mounted the sensor, we then suggest using these self-adhesive mounts and cable ties to position the cable in the direction that you want it to go. Again, a suggestion of ours is once you have the cable laid out exactly how you want from one sensor to the next, you can then follow up using silicone to provide a longer term and more durable solution. That's the end of the step to install the sensors and the cables. Once you've installed your sensors and your cables into your canopy, you're now ready to run your cable or cables from the canopy through into the cab of your vehicle. With the 1-port door alarm, you'll just have the one sensor cable. If you've installed the 3-port door alarm, you may have 2 or even 3 cables if you're wanting to separately indicate up to 3 doors. Again, for the 7-port door alarm, you will just simply have the one cable which is able to indicate up to 7 different doors. Take your cable and select a suitable position on the front of your canopy where you can drill a hole and use one of the grommets that we've supplied with your kit. Preferably, if there's an existing grommet in place, we recommend that you use that. Once you've installed the cable through there, you may want to silicone it to improve the water resistance of the installation, and then you ideally want to run the cable through into an existing grommet that may be on the rear of your cab. So remove that grommet, run the cable through, and again you may elect to provide some silicone to improve the waterproofing of that seal. You're now ready to move on to the next step of your installation. You're now ready for the final step for your installation of the door alarm. Firstly, you've got to select a suitable location on your dashboard where you want this indicator for your door alarm to be. In this scenario here, we could place it on the dashboard here, or we could place it here. Now what we recommend initially is to use the VHB tape that we've supplied, which is a good adhesive, to mount the door alarm in the location that you desire. And once you're comfortable with that over a period of time, you could then make it a bit more of a permanent installation by using the 2 screws that we've supplied and affixing it to your dashboard using those. Now the cable itself you will have run ideally under the trim, and so if you were to install the door alarm just here, you'd have it coming out somewhere along your trim along there and then plugging into the bottom of your door alarm. If you were to install it here, you would have it coming out of your trim down lower. Make sure that the cable is well affixed, and if necessary, use some of the self-adhesive cable tie mounts and cable ties to finish your installation. Well, that ends the installation of your door alarm.